I'm going to show you how we can use Gadget, OpenAI, and Shopify's theme app extensions to build a storefront chatbot that allows shoppers to ask questions and responds with product recommendations. Let's get started. Okay, I am going to get started building my storefront chatbot. I'll start by creating a new app here. I will select the Shopify app type, and I'll give my app a domain. I'll just call this Riley's Chatbot, and enter to create my new Gadget app. When I get a new Gadget app, I get a hosted and auto-scaled Postgres database, serverless Node.js backend, and React frontend powered by Vite. Let's go ahead and start by setting up our Shopify connection. So I can click this Connect to Shopify button here, or go through Settings, Plugins, Shopify. Because I'm using app extensions, a theme app extension in this case, to embed my chatbot in the storefront, I do want to connect through the partners dashboard, so I can go ahead and create a new partners app next. I'm already on my partners dashboard. That's partners.shopify.com. I'm going to create an app. Create an app manually. I will also call this Riley's Chatbot. And create. And now I can go ahead and copy my client ID and secret back to Gadget. And press connect. On this page, I select what Shopify API scopes and data models I want to include in my app. If you don't know up front, if you're building some other kind of app or want a different kind of chatbot, it's okay. You can always edit this connection later. For this app, I am going to want to read my products, and I will select my product and product image data models. I'm happy with this, so I'll go ahead and press confirm. We do have a setup summary off to the side where you can see what webhooks you're going to be subscribing to. So that will be products create, update, delete, as well as some shop update and app uninstalled webhooks. Gadget is going to manage all the webhooks for you. Gadget is also going to provide a historical data sync. So you will get Shopify models in your database for the selected product and product image models, as well as shop and GDPR requests, which are default models we're going to include for you every time. Press confirm. Now I can go ahead and copy my app URL and redirection URL back to my partner's app. Go to the app setup tab. Paste in my app URL, and I'll do the same for my redirection URL. And click save. That's great. That's all the setup I need to do. I haven't written a line of code yet, and I am ready to install my app on a store. So I'll go ahead and select a store. I'm going to choose my Distinguished Canine Demo Store. And I will click Install. And there we go. My app is now installed on my store. I'm not actually going to be using this part of my app. This is an embedded React front end that you can use to build a merchant-facing experience. I'm not going to use it for this chatbot. If you are building this chatbot as an actual app, you may want to configure this page. You see it is powered by shop page JSX. If I go back to my Gadget app, exit out of this, go to front end, there's shop page JSX. So this is the React file that's actually powering this page. You might want to just give merchants a set of instructions or provide some options for configurability if you want to build that into your chatbot. That's it. I am done setting up my connection. I am connected to Shopify. You see my data models have been imported. That is my product and product image models. Those are the ones I'm most interested in. So I'm ready to set up my OpenAI connection. So I can just go to Settings, Plugins, OpenAI, and then I'm going to use Gadget's managed keys. So every new team in Gadget does get an OpenAI credit that you can use to explore while building. You can also add in your own OpenAI API keys once you are ready to push to production or have used up your credit. I'll just use Gadget keys for now and press save. Fantastic. Now I'm ready to start adding some custom data models to my app. So I'm going to want a way to actually record my chatbot responses, and I can use that for training in the future. I can see what products are being recommended. It's really a good avenue for extending this chatbot tutorial. So I'll just go ahead, click the plus, and I will add a chatLog data model. I'm going to now add some fields to this model. Whenever I create a model that is like adding a table to the Postgres database, Gadget's handling that for you under the hood. And I can add fields, which is like adding columns. So all of the underlying migrations are handled automatically by Gadget. So I'll go ahead, click fields, add a field, and I'll just call this response. So this will just capture the string response that OpenAI is returning to shoppers. I also want to be able to capture the products that OpenAI has recommended. In order to do this, I'm going to use a has many through relationship so that my chatLog can have many Shopify products through a join model or an intermediary. So let's go ahead and set that up now. So I'm going to go ahead, create a new field called recommended products, and I will change the type of relationship to has many through. And like I said, I want to have many Shopify products. And then I'm going to want to go through an intermediate model. And this is required whenever you're doing any sort of many-to-many relationship like this. And that's because the chatLog can have relationships to multiple products. So multiple products can be recommended in a single chat. And then products can be recommended by multiple chats. So I do need this has many through relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and call this join model recommended product. And you'll notice that that data model has now been added to my Gadget app. So that is pretty neat. So now in my recommended product model here, I am going to name the field relating back to chatLog, maybe unsurprisingly. I'm going to name the field that relates to a product. And on the Shopify product model, there will also be the other side of the relationship relating back to the recommended product. And I'll just call that chat recommendations. So this is what my relationship should look like now. This intermediary recommended product model is just going to have IDs of chat logs and products, and it'll allow us to query by chat log, and then you can get the associated products. Or to see how many times a product has been recommended, you can just look in that recommended product model and filter by a product ID. So that's pretty neat. The next step is we need a way to be able to recommend products to shoppers when they ask a question. And we're going to use vector fields and cosine similarity to do this. So I can go ahead, click on my Shopify product model, add another field. As a side note, I do see this chat recommendations field has been added automatically. So I'm going to go ahead, add a new field. I will call this description embedding. And I'm going to make this a vector field. Now, a vector is just an array of numbers, and we're going to use OpenAI's embeddings API to generate these vectors from a product's title and description. So when I convert this text to a vector field, this allows me to use cosine similarity to actually look for similar vectors. So if a shopper asks a question, we can take whatever they ask, turn that into a vector, compare it against our product vectors, and then get the closest matches. So this is how we're going to go ahead and recommend products to shoppers with our chatbot. So now I need a way to actually create these vector embeddings whenever I get products in my Gadget database. I'm going to add some custom code to do this. So I'm going to want to run this custom code and generate embeddings anytime that my create or update actions are fired. And if I look off to the side here, I do get a code file for all of my actions when we imported these models or created these models with our Shopify connection. CRUD actions were automatically generated for me, and all of these actions are expressed as code files, so I have complete control over them. There's also this triggers section off to the right. So you can see for my Shopify models, the triggers are Shopify webhooks. So for example, for my update action, it can be triggered by the products update webhook. And then there is a data sync. So if I want to sync all of my historical product data into my app and generate those vectors, I can go ahead and trigger a data sync. So let's go ahead and add some custom code in here so that anytime my create or update actions are fired, I am generating these embeddings. I'm actually going to go down to the File Explorer. In the Shopify product folder, I'm just going to click plus, and I will add a new file. I'll call this create embedding.js. So I'm going to create a utility file that I just share between my create and update actions. I'm going to copy and paste some code in now. Open up create embedding, paste in some code. So this is just a create product embedding function. It takes a bunch of parameters that I will explain in a little bit. I'll explain now. Record is going to be my incoming Shopify product. API is an object that allows me to interact with my Gadget API. So we can see down here, we're using api.internal.shopify-product to actually update our products in our Gadget database with these description embedding fields. Logger is just the Gadget logger. You see there's a logs tool up here to the top left. And connections allows us to make use of that OpenAI connection that we set up earlier. So we can see we're calling connections.openai.embeddings.create. And this is just calling OpenAI's create embedding API. We're passing in the title and body of the record. That's the current product. And we are setting the text embedding ADA 2 model. So this is going to generate our embedding. That's all we're doing here in this helper is we're generating an embedding and storing it on our product in that new description embedding field. We also have an if statement here. We only want to run this code if there's either not a description embedding or the title or description, the body, have changed. So we don't want to run this code unnecessarily if we don't have to. Now that I have my utility file, I can actually just go ahead and share it between my update and create actions. So if I open up my create action, I will just copy paste. I could have written this one out. I am just importing my create product embedding function from my utility file, and I'm calling it in my onSuccess function. I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing in my update action now. And there we go. It's the exact same changes, importing our utility function and calling it in the onSuccess. And you see this is just, it's my update action. So that's great. So now every time I add a Shopify product to my database, I'm going to try and generate that embedding with OpenAI. So now I can go ahead and run that historical data sync that will bring in all of the products from my shop into my Gadget database and generate those embeddings. To do that, I can go to Settings, Plugins, Shopify, click on Shop Installs, and then click Sync. There's also a way to trigger these syncs with code. For example, if you want to sync data as soon as your merchant installs your app on a store, you can go ahead and do that. I'm not doing that right now just because I'm going through the development process, and I want to make sure I have this custom code in place before I sync everything to my database. So the sync is complete. If I go take a look at my Shopify product data model, I can click on the data page. And I don't have a ton of products in the shop. It's just a couple dog sweaters. But if I scroll over, I see that I do have description embeddings generated for all 4 of my products. So that is fantastic. That is all I need to do to actually set up my products. They're ready to be queried now. I just need to write a back-end route that can be called, and then I'll set up my Shopify theme extension. So the next step is setting up a back-end route that I can call when a shopper enters a question and submits the chat on the chatbot. I'm going to go over to routes. We see we have a sample route, get hello. I'm going to add a new route, and I'm going to call this post chat.js. So Gadget is built on top of Fastify, so you can check out our documentation for more information on what's included in HTTP routes. The reason I'm using routes instead of a global action is because I actually want to stream my response back. I can do this in routes. I cannot do this in global actions. I will just copy and paste some code here. This one is a little more substantial. I'm going to call this from my theme extension. I'm going to pass in a message from the shopper. I am once again using this connections parameter to call OpenAI embeddings create, and I'm going to create an embedding from the message that the shopper has entered. Once I have this embedding response, I'm using cosine similarity sorting to find the most similar, in this case, the two most similar products that match the shopper's question. I'm adding a filter, so it's only going to be, active products that I return. I'm also selecting only particular fields on my product, and that includes the shop domain as well as the images source. And that's so that my chatbot can return a picture of the product that is recommended when it responds to shoppers. I am using Gadget's built-in logger just to log the response for now. This is just useful for debugging. I've built this big ol' prompt here. I'm not going to read it out. I will give the short version is that it is a shopping assistant that is matching customers with the right product. And notably, it is supposed to return HTML markup so that I can just inject what's returned, sanitize it, and put it right into my chatbot response. I am passing in the products that I returned from my Shopify product.find many. I didn't quite explain this enough. We are using this API parameter here to interact with my Gadget API. So I can go api.shopify-product, which looks through records in my Shopify product data model, .find many. So this is just a way to query multiple Shopify products. Once I've built my prompt, I am once again using my OpenAI connection, connections.openai. But in this case, I'm calling the chat completions create API. And this is just going to be the standard kind of chat GPT API that you're used to. I am using the latest GPT-4 Turbo model. I'm passing in the prompt, and then I am passing in the message that comes from the user. And I am setting a stream Boolean to true so that the response is actually streamed back. I do have this onComplete function here. What this is doing is this is actually being called. At the bottom here, I have reply.send, and then I'm using this OpenAI response stream, which is coming from my Gadget server/AI package. So this is just, it's a helper that's allowing me to easily respond with a stream response, and it's taking this stream directly from the OpenAI API call and piping it to the caller. So that's fantastic. OnComplete is called as a callback once my stream is finished responding. So this will be the complete content response of the stream. And this is where I'm going ahead and actually creating new chatLog records. So this is where I'm saving in that chatLog and recommended product models. I'm just doing a bit of parsing up front here, getting my recommended products, and then I'm just saving everything to the database. So that's great. This is my back end. I do need to handle cores for this route, so I will walk through that quickly. I can press Command P, and I can enter command mode in the Gadget editor, and Gadget supports Yarn, so I can go yarn add Fastify cores, and this will install a Fastify cores plugin. There we go. It is running. Because Gadget is just built on Node, I can use any existing NPM packages, which is very handy. So if I do take a look at my package.json file, I can see that Fastify cores has been added as a dependency. So that's great. In order to make use of this package, I can go add plus scope.js. So this is just a file in the root of my routes folder. I'm just going to go ahead and copy, paste some settings in here. So you can see I'm just importing cores from this package, and I am registering it. Now I'm just setting origin to true. I'm allowing a request from any domain. When you're actually building this app, you probably don't want to do that. You might want to limit it to a single store, for example. So make sure to go ahead, update this. There are lots of other settings that you can set here. Go through Fastify's documentation if you're interested in learning more. So that's my whole backend setup. I've got my route, my database is all set up, my models are defined, I've got everything working as I want. I just need to be able to call this chat route now, and I'm going to use Shopify's theme app extensions to do that. So I am just going to go ahead. We already have a theme app extension that you can use. So I'm just going to go to the repo here. There is a link in the written tutorial, so I do suggest you check that out. I'll also include it in the video description. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to clone this repo locally. I'm going to change directories into this repo. And I'll go yarn install just to install all of the dependencies. So this repo is just a standard Shopify CLI app with a theme extension already set up. So we're giving you all of the theme extension code. I can go ahead and open this in VS Code while dependencies are installing. And we can explore this a little bit. So it is an extension-only app, so there's no remix template. If I go to extensions, theme extensions, there are a couple files to take note of. There's assets, which has chatbot CSS and chatbot.js files. Those are the important ones. We're also using purify.min.js, and that is just so that we can purify the response coming back from OpenAI, just as a bit of a safety net. We also have some images stored here. And then in blocks, I have my chatbot.liquid files. It's very simplistic right now. There is one change I do need to make here. You notice at the top, there is a script tag. So we are able to install our Gadget apps API here in our chatbot, but I do need to enter my Gadget apps domain. So what I need to do is just go Riley's chatbot -development.gadget.app. Make sure you have this -- development piece as part of your script tag. Otherwise, you'll be calling your production environment or a different environment, and your chatbot will not work. So that's the only change I need to make, which is fantastic. If you are interested in finding what your script tag should look like, it is actually going to be in the written tutorial specific to your app. So you can go ahead and check out the written tutorial for that if you don't want to mess around and take chances. So now I can go ahead and yarn dev. And this will actually start up my Shopify CLI app. I'm going to go ahead and select Riley Test Stuff as a partners organization. I do not want to create a new app. This is very important. I want to connect to the Riley's Chatbot Partners app I created earlier. And I want to select the same store I installed on, so the Distinguished Canine Demo. So I can see it is pushing my theme. And I am ready to test out my chatbot. I will walk through my extension code here in a bit, but first I'll test everything out. So if I navigate back to my shop admin, click on Online Store, Themes is the default selection, go to Customize, and then I go off to the left here and click App Embeds. I see Riley's chatbot is here. It's the Gadget chatbot. I can turn that on. I can preview it here. And if I'm happy with it, we see it is opening. That's a good sign. This is Gizmo. I can go ahead and press save. I can ask this questions here. Hello, do you have any nice dog sweaters? Absolutely. There's the Gentleman and Autumn Breeze. So it is streaming the response back notice. It is returning images and titles. Now, it is being prompted to format this a little nicer, but it's not really following instructions right now, so there might be some prompt engineering to do. I'm happy with this, happy enough for a V1 chatbot. If I go to my actual online store, I can also test this out here. Hello, any festive sweaters? There we go. We have the party animal and the gentleman. Once again, it is returning the responses. So this looks a little better formatted, not quite where we want it. There's maybe a bit of prompt engineering to do here, but once again, once you build this app, you can go ahead and modify that as you see fit. If I go ahead and click on one of these products, it does bring me to the product page and I can go ahead and complete my purchase. So that was an end-to-end demo of building this chatbot. Next, I'm going to go and take a quick swing through the Shopify theme extension to show you how we're calling our Gadget API. Okay, so let's go back to our theme extension now. Just go open up VS Code. In the liquid file, as I mentioned before, we do have the script tag to install our Gadget apps API. There are some settings here. It's just to toggle bottom, top, left, right if you want to move that little chatbot widget. Just as an option, just as an example of what settings you can provide. There's a bit of liquid code right here. It's mostly just bare bones HTML. It's a form. There's a chatbot window, which is toggled when you open it up. And then there's our little toggle, which is that circle with gizmo. In chatbot.js, this is the interesting part. So we are initializing API, and we're defining that as a new Gadget client. So that's fantastic. And then we've just got an event listener that is listening for the DOM content loaded action. We're grabbing, most of this is just grabbing different elements. And then what we're doing is we are grabbing whatever question the user has answered when the form is submitted. We're adding some chat bubbles and stuff. Most of this is just basic HTML manipulation through JavaScript. There's nothing fancy going on until we get to about line 45 here, where we're actually calling our Gadget backend. So we're using our API client .fetch, and we're using .fetch to call our /chat route that was created. This is going to be a post request, sending content application JSON, and we are just stringifying the input value that the shopper has entered into the chat. And we want to make sure we set this stream true so that we make use of that stream response helper. The rest of this JavaScript file is just using a decoded stream reader to actually parse that stream and show the response in the chatbot window. We do have a bit of error handling here, and then it's just a loop. We are reading from our decoded stream reader. We're appending a value to a reply text object. And once again, we're just using DOM purify to sanitize that text before adding it to the chatbot response element. When we're done, we are just doing some additional toggling here. Most of this is just appearance based. And that's pretty much it. The last little piece here is just toggling the visibility of the chatbot window, whether you open or close it. So the code isn't really that advanced. We kept it very simple. That means the functionality is also very simple. This isn't being implemented as a GPT style where it's keeping message context and passing that back and forth. That might be something you do want to implement though. You can probably do that with the chatLog database, or you can pass messages back and forth as part of your request body. So that was just a simple example of a chatbot we can build using Gadget, OpenAI, and Shopify theme extensions. If you have any questions, reach out to us on our developer Discord or check out our documentation. Until next time, I hope you keep building more and coding less with Gadget.